Welcome to Exit Frag. I'm Zeph. I'm joined by Esports Andy, That Nerd Kaizen, and 4TV. Today we are going to be talking about the very controversial Esports World Cup. Let me get the initial reactions from my co-host Andy. Andy, what were your thoughts about this announcement?
I think we're all gonna probably say it, but we didn't really want it to happen. Not only is it not something that like a lot of us I hope like almost nobody is for, which is the Saudi government getting involved in Valorant and Riot Esports, but also just like more games in like an already really dense season for like the next 3 years. That's like kind of gonna burn out not just like the players but also like the fans. I don't know, I just didn't feel like that was like
Necessary?
just thinking outside of the political thing. It doesn't make sense for the season right now
Yeah.
and how it's structured.
Kai?
Yeah, I just wish it was like ran a little bit better too at the end of the day, because it's like, why call it an Esports World Cup when you don't even have like nations, you know?
True.
I feel like that's
So
just
many things like weird, like
yeah. And the formats aren't even really like, how is the format for the EW? I might
Has
like
not
watch
been
a
announced yet.
game or two just to see
Like-
how it is, but I don't think I'm gonna watch the whole tournament. If anything,
Yeah,
I feel like you'd be better off just watching tier 2, honestly.
well, yeah, when Riot has been saying that they want to like build up the tier 2 scene during like off times. They structure things based on like the season based on off times for tier 1, but then they're like, oh, but then we're gonna take all this money, I guess, and who cares? Like we're just gonna like disregard all the work we built on building a thriving tier 2 scene.
Yeah.
Like it just kind of feels really short-sighted.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to see what this format for Valorant even looks like. 'Cause,
I
like,
don't-
all the other games are like very condensed.
I don't know if they've announced it. I didn't see it on their website. But here,
I'll bet the
while you do
ones.
that, I'm going to. I'm just gonna say I'm not like super happy about this. I feel like this was like maybe the worst thing they could have done, because not only that, but I also think it spits on the face of like not only the
Game
community
changers. Yeah.
but game changers as well. I'm not gonna touch on that because I know Ford has some strong opinions about that here in a second. So I'm not gonna touch on that yet. But what I will say is like the community's been asking for years now for an actual World Cup for Valorant, where you have like the best players. You have players go back to their country, and then they form a team, and then they play in an actual like Valorant World Cup, where like you have like Marv, FNS, I believe Mata's Canadian. I could be wrong. You have like Mata or Canadian players, and then you have like the American players. So you'd have like Zekin and probably Narrate or Jajimo, all in one team, also trying to compete. And then you have like the Brazilian team, so maybe you reform Loud, like that's like the one chance to like do something like that. And it just feels like they completely like ignored that and went with something like, oh, let's do a third party tournament with somebody else where we don't have to upfront the money, we're getting paid, and then these orgs are getting paid as well. And now but because we got away with it in League of Legends, we're going to try to get away with it now with Valorant. I'm telling you right now, aside from like maybe some like teenagers who don't know any better about, the about politics, I don't think anybody that is like even in touch like slightly with the political state of the world will be watching the Esports World Cup. Like viewership has already shown that it's not great for like team fight tactics. No one watched that. League of Legends was popular, but that's because League is like really, really global game. I feel like a lot of like Valorant depends on like North American watchers. I mean, sorry to EMEA and other regions, but I think that's just the truth. Like North America
Americas
carries,
and Pacific
and
is
a
really
lot of
hard.
Americans
Yeah.
are not going to be watching the Esports World Cup simply because they don't agree with what the Saudi government is doing. I hate when people do things like this, to where like it's people will say, oh, but it has nothing to do with politics. Brother, it's funded by the Saudi government. Like, it has everything to do with politics. You're ignoring your moral compass to throw a tournament in the middle of the season and you're ignoring your fans at the same time. Like, and you're possibly going against your own mission statements that you've had with other leagues in your system. This seems like a complete step backwards in my opinion. Ford?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was just going to say about the Riot statement. They put a statement saying that they wanted orgs an opportunity to make more money. So, Riot, I know a good way you could make, especially your franchise teams, more money. Make better skins for your orgs. This year was
Honestly,
so
yeah.
disappointing. Like they
Honestly.
there was apparently what happened with the new banners. Some teams said that they were complaining because other teams were outselling. Why did you think it was a good idea then to make every single banner the same? It doesn't make any sense from an org's perspective. If you're like a lesser known org, you want the banners to all be different because you can create a banner that looks really cool and people will buy it and they don't even know your team, but they'll buy it because it looks cool. But now it's a zero-sum game because people will just buy the banner of the team they like because it's the team they like, not because of the banner. It will actually lead to lower teams having less sales. So that's one thing that I was like, you're saying that they need opportunity funding, but you've done this thing this year, which is basically screwed over a lot of the lower teams. It really only helps the higher teams in the franchise system. If you could introduce more skins, more cosmetics for orgs into your game. You have the ability to do that, but instead you're going to compromise with a regime that is very unethical, has a horrendous human rights record.
Okay, I'll do some.
Yeah, but you can do the easy option. You can introduce more skins into the game. You know what? Bren said, if you want to get all the moral compass out, you might as well put gambling in Valorant. If you're going to compromise with a government who does
horrendous, give right ideas, man.
If you're going to compromise with a government that has a horrendous human rights record, you might as well add gambling to the game. Get kids addicted to gambling. You know, it's the same. If your moral compass is there, then you might as well do something like that. But all jokes aside, they could have just added more skins for orgs. So if franchise teams want to compete here, it's kind of a shame, really, because Riot had a chance to not allow this to happen, especially for the orgs that are in tier 1. But yeah, it's a real shame. I mean, the thing is, you could have events in Saudi. As Zeph said, the problem is it's run and funded by the Saudi government. There's a lot of things you have to do as an org to be able to compete in these tournaments. You cannot criticize the Saudi government or you'll be kicked out. You cannot talk about anything wrong. You have to speak positively about the Saudi government and how great the Esports World Cup is. Just, for me, it's not something that reflects really what Valorant has built over the 5 years, personally.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of things that Ford said. As you guys can tell, I don't really know much of what's going on in the Middle East. I should probably do some research on that. But yeah, it's like, I don't know, because like on one hand, I like the idea of Valorant hosting more third-party events, because like if you look at CS:GO, they have a lot of like pop-in third-party events. That's like one of like CS:GO's like bread and butter, right? With its third-party events, which I'm sure Ford, you know more about that than I do. But at the same time, it's just like, damn, why did it have to be the Esports World Cup? Like, obviously they're getting the bag over there to just do stuff with the Esports World Cup. Yeah, it just is a kind of like a head scratcher. But at the end of the day, I guess just money talks, you know, and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, my whole thing is like, it's never been hard to sell your morals for money. Like, that's never, like, whenever people are like, oh man, you got the opportunity, you took it. Like, so many people get these opportunities and get these offers. Like, people get like gambling sponsors that don't take it all the time. And, you know, there's so many things. It's like, but you have to think of like the long-term effect, not like, this is going to have a negative effect. This is a 3-year deal. So for the next 3 years, we're going to be having this built into the system.
Oh my
it's just not. a great thing to do, and especially like when these esports, especially as esports gets more prominent in like society and becoming as important as traditional media as all of us get older, like you don't want the like Saudi government to be involved with like the biggest FPS game.
True.
Like,
It's so scary too. Like if you're like a Valorant player, because like Valorant's like extremely like left leaning and stuff like that. Like if you say the wrong thing, we might not have like players come back. That's the scary
Well,
part.
and also, like, are the players going to be like, what's the contract deals like? Could they like lose their job if they
Yeah, are
say,
they
oh,
pressured
like,
by the orgs? Because the orgs know they're going to get a lot of money from attending
Yeah.
these.
Are they though? Like I
Yeah,
think
because
I saw
Okay,
for
okay.
League, like the teams, like the last place team gets like what 40K.
No, but some teams are in like a sort of partnership agreement with the Esports World Cup, so they get paid to
So
go
it's
to the.
Think
on
about
top
get
of the
paid
prize
to-
pool.
think about
Yeah.
this for the next 3 years. I'm not saying Apex would do this, okay? Huge like this is not a reflection on Apex. I'm just using them as an example. If Apex signed Fluorescent, correct, right? If
Right.
they told her you have to go to the Esports World Cup in order to not breach your contract, do you think Fluorescent would go?
well, then they'll have like a
Nah,
Brittany
I would not
Griner,
go if I
like,
was
situation.
Yeah,
fluorescent.
okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's your livelihood. You legitly might die.
Well, and the thing is like then they might get like arrested there.
Right.
Yeah.
Like like they're not like a big NBA player.
Yeah.
They're still like it's still esports. Like,
Yeah.
and one of my big things is like what's gonna happen. Like Fnatic's probably gonna be playing there for like the next 3 years.
I guarantee
If-
Boaster's not going.
Well, yeah. Like, so what is like if then like the esports thing is like, oh, Fnatic, like you have to like, oh, well then we're not going to like renew your contract if your best players don't. So then now Fnatic only gets players that are okay with going to the like, it kind of builds like a weird thing into the esport because of one event that's in the like that's not it's a third party event. If third party event's supposed to be like Riot doesn't even have to care about it.
Right.
Like, why is it affecting us like this one event?
That's
Yeah.
true. Did you guys know that Spike? Oh yeah, I forgot. Spike Nation actually does like World Cups during the off
I feel
season
like
every
there's-
year.
There's been so many different like the esports World Cup isn't new. Like it's just this is
Not
the
even a
newest-
World Cup. It's just like the Saudi games. That's all it is. That's what they should.
Yeah,
do, is
it's just
Saudi
another.
games.
They just branding. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is kind of hard for me to like. I don't want to talk. I don't know. It's weird because it's like if I feel like a little bit of a hypocrite to talk against the Saudi government, and I live in America, and like
That's how I was
America, like our government has done like a lot of shady stuff to.
but they
civilians.
don't run the VCT America.
Yeah.
So
Yep,
But
that's my
the
thing.
United States government
don't-
doesn't
they
run
don't-
VCT Americas.
they don't use VCT Americas to shadow your eyes away from the war crimes they commit.
That's yeah, that's true to an extent because like
Which is
there's a
what-
reason
directly
why
what Saudi
Riot
is doing.
Games has like banned servers in Russia. It's because of the U.S. government.
Yeah, it's like the same thing as like we're not hosting events in like Russia.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
true. Yeah,
You know,
They're
can't-
both tyrannical governments that should not have a space in.
And I wouldn't want the like U.S. backed like sanctioned VCT. Like,
yeah, that was.
yeah, that's true.
like,
Where they
some
had
of them-
they had the US.
It was
Army
already
ads
hard for
playing-
Brazilians to get visas. Just
Yeah,
make
Well,
it
imagine,
then
like-
we're
harder.
only gonna have NA. It's just gonna be like the USA, like no South America.
Yeah.
Imagine like you watching VCT and then halfway through, it's like join the US Army. It'll be great fun.
So you guys would be
The
okay
national
with
anthem.
like you guys would be okay with third party events just if it wasn't like manipulation, like if there
Oh,
wasn't
yeah,
like a lot
absolutely.
of manipulation behind
It's
it.
just if it wasn't like state backed, like
Yeah.
government backed.
It wasn't used to. No, sports watching is the term, but like esports watching, I guess, to hide away from.
They say that the U.S. government during like Iraq would do like certain launches during the Super Bowl
Yeah.
because
well,
every,
yeah,
every
that's
like
true.
Oh yeah.
like more things would happen when big events are happening. Same as like Valorant, and I hope Valorant and other esports will become super big, and and I'm assuming Saudi Arabia sees the same thing and wants to get a foothold into it. And they've been successful so far. Well, successful. Some of their stuff doesn't get watched, but it's
Yeah.
just it sucks
It's
that
working,
aren't
right?
the need.
Yeah. I think for me, like the biggest, like, Riot is like an absolute hypocrite for this. And I thought Ford was going to talk about this. It's just a game changer scene. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fact that, like, you on the one hand you have, okay, we want a space where we can include all these different people of different genders in, and give them an opportunity to play, where maybe maybe tier 1 orgs would not do that, or would be more skeptical. Here's a space for you to play, to feel safe. And then, like, on the other hand, you have a whole tournament that is backed by a government that does not care about doing those things, and even goes out of its way to suppress DEI, basically. And it's like, but so why you as a company are showing this one thing and then doing another thing? And at the end of the day, I do think it comes down to just like, oh, it's because now money is involved, because now this is the one tournament that they don't have to pay out of pocket. They just have to, like, they're getting paid to run this tournament, and because of that, now okay, it's fine. Like, now we can endorse this tournament. And it's like, come on, dude. Like, I'm not saying you that, oh, you need to choose one or the other. I'm just saying, like, it looks very bad for you
Yeah.
in the public's eye to be throwing this tournament while also trying to run game changers at the same time.
All I know
It's
is Riot better
ridiculous.
not have like massive layoffs either. They better not. If they're taking all this money, there shouldn't be
Yeah,
another
the-
massive layoff like they had last
Yeah,
year.
they fired 10% of their workforce in January, which is insane.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of sad too. Like, hold on, let me look at the group stages of Spike Nations. Yeah, it's like Spike Nations gets smaller and smaller every year.
I don't know too much about Spike.
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird that they're not like trying to bump out these, like, if they're not able to run these third, like, they're not like letting these other companies build out these third party events and building out like consistent thing. Like Soap is like trying to come out in like the Pacific, but yeah, I don't know. It just feels like it's just taking a lot of attention away from a lot of like important, like,
You know what
resources.
this
away from
reminds me
important-
of? It reminds me of like when Overwatch used to make horrible business decisions for their esports scene. Like when they took that YouTube deal and like they took the temporary money, but it like kind of jeopardized their like long-term success in a way. Because it's like,
because no one was watching.
yeah, and my thing is like why is Valorant doing this? Is like they have to be giving them like millions of dollars or
Yeah.
something. They have to be. Because I feel like you could just be doing so many like cooler events or allow teams. I want a World Cup, bro. That's what I'm saying. Like you could fund that during the off season easy or something like that
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Spotlight series was great. I don't know why they didn't.
Riot Games is a small indie company, doesn't have a lot of money, so
I'm so upset that Valorant always takes like a hiatus during the holidays when like everyone plays video games the most.
Yeah.
yeah.
All
It's
right.
just disappointing, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
all
final
wrong.
thoughts on that.
Disappointing.
If you want more info, watch the sideshow video.
Sideshow
Sideshow
video.
Two very good videos on why this is not
So-
the best thing for Valorant.
Quick question. If Riot Games decided to host like a Masters event in Saudi Arabia, would you guys watch it?
Absolutely not.
But it would be a Riot funded.
Most likely, it will have a lot. It will probably have some affiliation with the Saudi
the
government.
government, yeah.
I don't think they would do that anyway. I don't think Riot would do it anyway.
Nope.
There'd be no
Oh.
benefit for them doing it.
Nope. That would be the one Masters event I would not cover. I would not watch. All right. Well,
Gotcha.
on that depressing note, this has been Exit Frag. This is the end of the content for this week. We will see you next week when we talk about week 2 of Masters, preview week 2 of Masters Bangkok. For Esports Andy, for TV, and That Nerd Kaizen, I'm Zeph. We'll see you next week.